A 30,000-foot-high emergency. A man is dying in the aisle. A black woman in a simple tracksuit unbuckles her seatbelt. "I'm a doctor. I can help." The senior flight attendant looks her up and down with pure contempt and blocks her path. "Ma'am, please," she sneers. "We need a real doctor, not someone looking for attention." That flight attendant just made the biggest mistake of her 25-year career. She didn't just insult a passenger. She insulted Dr. Amelia Hayes, the Surgeon General of the United States. And the karma that comes for her is colder and more absolute than the air outside the cockpit. The sterile, hurried chaos of Dulles International Airport was a familiar kind of white noise to Dr. Amelia Hayes. She moved through the security line with practiced efficiency, her mind already 30,000 feet in the air, sorting through the keynotes for the National Public Health Conference in San Francisco. To the bustling travelers around her, she was invisible, and she preferred it that way. She wore a simple, well-worn grey tracksuit, the fabric soft from years of long-haul flights. On her feet were a pair of high-end running shoes, chosen for comfort, not style. Her hair was pulled back into a neat, tight bun. She carried a single, heavy leather satchel, stuffed with medical journals and government briefs. She was 52 years old, and on this Monday morning, she looked less like the nation's top doctor and more like a weary aunt heading for a family visit. Her first encounter with the day's friction was at the first-class check-in for Trans-American Airlines. The agent, a young man named Mark, was fawning over a man in a crisp pinstriped suit, Mr. Henderson, who was loudly complaining about his luggage tag. "It's just unacceptable, simply unacceptable," Mr. Henderson boomed. "I understand completely, sir. We'll have that sorted immediately," Mark said, his smile plastered on. Amelia waited patiently. When Mr. Henderson finally moved aside, she stepped forward and placed her passport and ticket on the counter. "Good morning. Just checking my one bag," she said. Mark didn't look up from his computer. He held out a hand, snatched the passport, and typed. He tagged the bag without a word, his previous warmth entirely gone. He shoved the documents back at her. "Gate B42. Boarding in 30. "Thank you," Amelia said, maintaining her composure. The contrast was stark, but she was used to it. She was used to being the invisible woman, the one people's eyes slid over until her title was announced. Today she was just Amelia, and Amelia was apparently not worth a good morning. She boarded the plane and found her seat, 2B, first class. She'd used her own personal miles for the upgrade. The government travel budget was strict, but 6 hours in a cramped coach seat before a 3-day conference was a form of self-torture she was willing to pay to avoid. As she settled in, she noticed the lead flight attendant, a woman in her late 50s with a name tag that read Barbara. Barbara had sharp blue eyes and a hairstyle that hadn't changed since 1995. She was greeting passengers with a smile that was bright for some and noticeably dimmer for others. When Amelia caught her eye and gave a polite nod, Barbara's smile didn't just dim, it inverted into a look of faint, questioning annoyance. The look clearly said, "You? In this seat?" Amelia ignored it, pulling out her tablet and a thick binder. She was accustomed to this microaggression. It was the belonging tax. "Can I see your boarding pass again, ma'am?" Barbara's voice was sharp, cutting through the cabin's low hum. Amelia looked up. Barbara was standing over her, hand outstretched. "Certainly." Amelia handed it over. Barbara studied it for a long moment, as if checking for forgery. "Right. 2B. Just making sure." She handed it back without apology. "Your bag is too large for the floor. It needs to go up." "It has my work in it. It will fit securely under the seat in front of me," Amelia stated calmly. Ma'am, our policy is— Your policy, Amelia said, not unkindly, but with an edge of finality, allows for one personal item that fits under the seat. This fits. It will not be moved. Barbara's lips thinned. She was clearly incensed at being corrected, especially by someone she had already mentally categorized as other. She huffed a small, sharp breath. Fine. But I'll need you to move it for takeoff so I can personally verify. You do that, Amelia said, already opening her tablet. A younger flight attendant, Chloe, watched the exchange with wide, nervous eyes. She hurried over as Barbara stalked away. Can I get you a pre-departure beverage? Water? Orange juice? Water would be lovely, thank you, Chloe, Amelia said, giving the young woman a warm smile, intentionally using her name. As Chloe fetched the water, she heard Barbara whisper to her in the galley. Don't be so friendly. That one's going to be trouble. Always is with these types. Probably got a free upgrade and thinks she owns the plane. Amelia sighed, closing her eyes for just a second. It was going to be a very long flight. The Boeing 777 climbed to its cruising altitude, a silver speck against the bright morning sky. Below, America was a patchwork of green and brown. Inside, the first-class cabin was an ecosystem of its own. Dr. Amelia Hayes was deeply engrossed in a promising, if dense, research paper on pediatric viral vectors. She was a master of compartmentalization. The rudeness from Barbara, the dismissiveness from Mark, she filed them away under ambient societal friction. It was noise. The signal was the work. Barbara, meanwhile, was conducting her service with the precision of a petty monarch. She was all smiles and Mr. Henderson's for the man in 1A. Another Glenlivet, Mr. Henderson? Of course, and some warm nuts for you? My pleasure. When she reached Amelia, her demeanor changed as if a switch had been flipped. You'll want the chicken or the pasta? She asked. No, Dr. Hayes, no ma'am, just a flat, impatient demand. The pasta, please, and just water, no ice. Barbara slopped the meal onto the tray table with a clatter. Anything else? No, thank you, Barbara. This is fine. The use of her name seemed to irritate Barbara further. She moved on, her perfume a heavy, floral cloud in her wake. Chloe, the junior attendant, followed, her face a mask of anxious politeness. She would catch Amelia's eye and give a small, apologetic grimace, which Amelia would return with a reassuring, "It's all right," nod. Amelia ate the mediocre pasta and returned to her work. Across the aisle, a young man, a political aide named Thomas, was also working furiously on a laptop, his tie loosened. He was plugged into the in-flight Wi-Fi, his screen filled with spreadsheets. Further back, another passenger was becoming a problem. A man in a stained polo shirt, Mr. Peterson, was already on his 5th miniature bottle of whiskey. He was loud, telling a rambling story to the passenger next to him, who was clearly uncomfortable. And I told him, Mr. Peterson slurred. I said, "You can't talk to me like that. I pay your salary." Chloe approached him. "Sir, I think maybe we should switch to water for a while." "What? No," he snapped. "I'm a Diamond Medallion member. Get your manager. Get Barbara. She knows me." Barbara glided over, her plastic smile firmly in place. "Mr. Peterson, good to see you again. But Chloe's right. Airline policy. We need to pace ourselves." "Oh, come on, Barb," he whined. "One more, just one. And then it's coffee, okay?" she said, slipping him 2 more bottles in a conspiratorial wink. Amelia watched this exchange over the top of her tablet. She saw Barbara's calculation: placate the belligerent drunk, who was white, to avoid a scene, while simultaneously disciplining the quiet, working professional, who was black. It was a masterclass in discriminatory service. Amelia made a mental note. This wasn't just poor service, it was a safety issue. An intoxicated passenger during a potential emergency was a liability. She flagged down Chloe. "Excuse me, dear." Chloe hurried over, relieved to be away from Mr. Peterson. "Yes, Mum." "I just need you to be aware," Amelia said in a low, steady voice, "that your colleague just served 2 more drinks to a man who is clearly past his limit. That's a violation of FAA regulations. I'm not making a complaint right now, but I am making you aware of it, as it's a safety concern for everyone on this flight." Chloe's face went pale. "Oh, I'll tell her." "No, you won't," Amelia said, not as a command, but as a statement of fact. "You're afraid of her. That's fine. Just be prepared. Things like this can escalate." Chloe just stared, then nodded and fled to the galley. 2 hours passed. The plane hit a patch of turbulence over the Rockies, the fasten seatbelt sign illuminated with a ding. It was then that Mr. Henderson, the loud businessman from 1A, returning from the restroom, suddenly stopped. He reached out a hand, grasping the headrest of Amelia's seat. He made a sound. A sharp, wet gasp. "Sir?" Amelia asked, looking up. Mr. Henderson's face was a terrible ashen grey. He wasn't breathing. He was sucking at the air. He clutched his chest, his eyes wide with a pure, primal terror. "Help!" he wheezed, and then he collapsed. The collapse of Mr. Henderson sent a shock-wave through the manufactured calm of the first-class cabin. His wife, who had been dozing, woke with a start and screamed, "Arthur! Arthur! My God!" The sound was a raw, jagged edge of panic. Chloe, the junior attendant, was the first to react, her training kicking in. She rushed to his side. "Sir! Sir, can you hear me?" Barbara was right behind her, her face a mask of annoyance that quickly curdled into fear. What's wrong with him? He's not breathing right," Chloe cried out. This was it. The moment. Dr. Amelia Hayes didn't hesitate. She didn't think. She acted. Her tablet was on the floor, her seatbelt unbuckled in a single fluid motion. Years of medical school, decades in emergency rooms, the immense pressure of leading the nation's public health service. It all coalesced into a laser focus. "Get out of the way," she said, her voice not loud, but carrying an unmistakable, absolute authority. She was in the aisle, kneeling beside Mr. Henderson. Her fingers were instantly on his carotid artery. "No pulse. He's in V-fib. He's arresting." Barbara, in a moment of pure automated response, grabbed the interphone. Her voice, shaking but loud, boomed through the entire plane. "Is there a doctor on board? We have a medical emergency in first class. Is there a doctor on board?" Evelzen, her hands already positioning Mr. Henderson's head to clear his airway, shouted up at her without looking. "I am the doctor. Get the AED, now!" But Barbara wasn't listening to her. She was listening for a response. "Is there a doctor?" Barbara repeated, her eyes scanning the cabin behind Amelia, looking past her, through her, as if she were just a piece of luggage that had fallen into the aisle. "I am the doctor!" Amelia roared this time, the sound raw and powerful. "Stop wasting time. Get me the medical kit and the AED. He has seconds." This was the inflection point, the moment where a lifetime of prejudice, of snap judgments, and of cultivated arrogance met an immovable object. Barbara Jennings looked down at the black woman in the grey tracksuit who was barking orders at her. She saw the casual clothes. She saw the dark skin. She saw the passenger from 2B who had talked back to her about a bag. She did not see a doctor. She saw a problem. "Ma'am," Barbara snapped, her voice dripping with venom, "please return to your seat. You are interfering with the crew." Amelia stared at her, dumbfounded. For a fraction of a second, the sheer, staggering absurdity of the situation almost made her laugh. A man was dying. "Are you insane?" Amelia said, her voice dropping to a dangerous low. "I am a medical doctor. That man is in cardiac arrest. Get the kit." "I will not," Barbara declared. She was convinced. This was a Karen, a passenger trying to insert herself to get attention. "We have procedures. You are not authorized." "Barbara, he's turning blue," Chloe shrieked, pointing at Mr. Henderson's face. "I need credentials," Barbara yelled at Amelia. "I can't just let any passenger play doctor." "They are in my bag, you absolute fool," Amelia shouted back, starting compressions herself. "1 and 2 and 3. Chloe, the bag is in the galley. You, get the AED." Chloe, galvanized by the sheer force of Amelia's command, scrambled to her feet, but Barbara grabbed her arm. "You will stay here. You do not take orders from her," Barbara commanded. It was a stalemate, a woman with absolute authority and no perceived power, and a woman with perceived power and no authority. And in the middle, a man's life was evaporating. "Fine," Amelia said, never stopping compressions. "He will die, and his death will be on you, not on me. On you, Barbara. Do you understand me? His family will sue this airline into oblivion, and I will be the one on the witness stand, telling them exactly how you refused to get the AED. The threat, cold and specific, landed. Barbara's face faltered. In that moment of hesitation, another passenger, a white woman in 4C wearing nursing scrubs, unbuckled. "I'm a registered nurse," she said. "Jenna, can I help?" Barbara's relief was palpable. Yes, you. Get over here. This person is interfering." "She's right," Jenna the nurse said, kneeling opposite Amelia. "He's in arrest. We need the kit." Barbara, now given permission by a face she trusted, turned to Chloe. "Get the kit." Amelia and the nurse, Jenna, locked eyes. "I'm Dr. Hayes," Amelia said, still pumping. "Jenna Miller, what do you need?" "I need you to take over compressions when I tire. I'll manage the airway and the AED. What's your ER experience?" 10 years. Level 1 trauma," Jenna said. "Good," Amelia grunted. "You're up. I'll get the pads on." Barbara had been bypassed. She stood, useless and ignored, as the two medical professionals, one in a tracksuit, one in scrubs, worked seamlessly to save a man's life. Chloe returned, fumbling with the heavy red medical kit and the AED. She practically threw them at Amelia's feet. "Pads," Amelia commanded. She ripped open Mr. Henderson's $500 shirt with her bare hands. Buttons flew. His wife screamed again, but Amelia didn't hear her. "Applying pads," she said, her voice the calm, metronomic center of the chaos. She placed one on his upper right chest, the other on his lower left. "Stop compressions." Jenna pulled her hands back. The machine's synthetic voice filled the cabin. "Analyzing heart rhythm. Do not touch the patient." The cabin was dead silent. The only sounds were the hum of the engines and the terrified, shallow breathing of the passengers. Barbara stood frozen, her face a mask of pale fury and dawning horror. "Shock advised," the machine announced. "Charging. Stand clear." "Everybody clear!" Amelia shouted. Jenna and Chloe jumped back. Amelia's eyes scanned the man's body. "Clear!" She pressed the orange, flashing button. Mr. Henderson's body arched off the floor in a violent, sickening convulsion. And then he fell back, limp. "Resume compressions," Amelia ordered. Jenna was on it instantly. "Chloe," Amelia said, "I need the medical kit. Open it. I need an ambu bag and an O2 tank. Now." Chloe's hands were shaking so badly she couldn't work the latches. Amelia, seeing this, put her hand on the young woman's. "Chloe, look at me. Breathe. You can do this. I need your help. Open the kit." Chloe nodded, a single tear rolling down her cheek. She popped the latches. Inside was a jumble of medical supplies. Amelia's hands moved with blinding speed. She assembled the ambu bag, attached it to the small green oxygen tank, and fitted the mask over Mr. Henderson's face. "Stop compressions." She gave 2 full, deep breaths, watching his chest rise and fall. "Okay, back on. 30 and 2. They fell into the rhythm. 30 compressions from Jenna, 2 breaths from Amelia. They were a machine. Barbara, meanwhile, was whispering frantically to the captain on the interphone. "Yes, a passenger collapsed. Yes, a heart attack. 2 other passengers are administering aid." She couldn't bring herself to say the passenger, the one she had tried to stop, was now in charge. After 2 more minutes of CPR, the AED squawked again. "Analyzing heart rhythm. Clear," Amelia said. Jenna pulled back. The machine whirred. "No shock advised. Check for pulse." Amelia's fingers went back to the carotid artery. She held them there. 1 second. 2. 3. A faint, thready flutter. "We've got a pulse," Amelia said. A wave of relieved gasps swept the cabin. "It's thready, but it's there. He's not breathing on his own. Keep the O2 on him." Mr. Henderson's eyes flickered. He groaned. "Mr. Henderson? Can you hear me?" Amelia said, her voice suddenly gentle. "Don't try to talk. You had a heart attack. We're taking care of you." It was at this exact moment that Thomas, the political aide from 2C, who had been watching the entire drama, spoke. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the cabin. "Oh my God," he whispered. He fumbled for his phone, which he'd been using on the Wi-Fi. He pulled up a picture. He stared at the woman in the blood and sweat-stained tracksuit. He looked at his phone. Back at the woman. Holy cow," he said, louder. He stood up. "What is it?" Barbara snapped, irritated by another interruption. Thomas pointed, his finger shaking. That's not just a doctor." He looked at Amelia, his face filled with awe. "You're Dr. Amelia Hayes. You're the Surgeon General of the United States." The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavier and more profound than the silence during the AED analysis. Every passenger, every crew member, turned to stare. Amelia didn't even look up from her patient. "That's not relevant right now. What's relevant is getting this man to a hospital. Captain," she called out, knowing he was listening on the phone, "I need you to divert to the nearest airport with a level 1 cardiac center. That's Denver. You need to land in the next 30 minutes, or he will die." Barbara Jennings, holding the phone to her ear, just stared. Her face had gone from pale to a mottled, sickly white. The hand holding the phone was shaking so hard she had to brace it with the other. She had not just blocked a doctor. She had assaulted, dismissed, and tried to overrule a high-ranking government official, a cabinet-level appointee, the Surgeon General. In the galley, Chloe, who heard Thomas's statement, dropped an entire tray of plastic cups. The clatter was deafening, but not as deafening as the sound of Barbara's career imploding. "Barbara," Amelia said, her voice lethally calm, "give the captain the phone. I need to speak to him. Now." Barbara, mute, stumbled forward and handed the interphone to Amelia, her eyes blank with shock. "Captain," Amelia said, "this is Dr. Hayes. Your passenger is stable, but critical. We are diverting to Denver. I'll need to speak to your ground-based medical support, and I want an ambulance and a full cardiac team on the tarmac when we land. Do you copy?" "Yes, Dr. Hayes. Yes, ma'am." The captain's voice crackled back. All business. "Denver it is. ETA 28 minutes. Amelia handed the phone back to a numb Barbara. She turned to Jenna. "Thank you, Ms. Miller. Your timing is impeccable. Can you stay with me and monitor his pulse?" "Of course, Doctor." Amelia finally looked at Barbara. She didn't say a word. She just held her gaze. And in that one long, quiet moment, Barbara Jennings understood that her life, as she knew it, was over. The next 28 minutes were the longest of the flight. The 777, now a medical transport, descended rapidly toward Denver. Captain Miller had declared a medical emergency, granting them immediate priority over all other air traffic. Amelia Hayes never left Mr. Henderson's side. She, Jenna, and Chloe had created a small, sterile as possible field in the aisle. Amelia directed them to move the other first-class passengers to the back, clearing the area. She was the picture of calm, efficient command. She had an IV line from the kit and was running a saline drip. She monitored his O2 saturation with a portable pulse oximeter. She was, in short, running a mobile emergency room. Barbara, on the other hand, had vanished. After Amelia had taken command of the situation, Barbara had stumbled back to the galley, her face ashen. She sat on the jump seat, staring at the bulkhead. She was vibrating. When Chloe went to retrieve a bottle of water for Amelia, she saw her. "Barbara," Chloe whispered. "Are you okay?" Barbara turned to her, her eyes wide and unseeing. "Do you know who that is?" she whispered. The Surgeon General." She said the title as if it were a curse. I told her to sit down. Oh God, I touched her. I grabbed her arm." "You grabbed my arm, Barbara," Chloe said, her voice small but suddenly cold. The fear she'd always had for the senior attendant was being replaced by a chilling clarity. "I'm fired," Barbara muttered, ignoring her. "I'm fired. My pension. 25 years. All gone. Because of her." "Because of you," Chloe said, grabbing the water. "You wouldn't listen. You never listen." She left Barbara alone in the galley, a ghost in a navy blue uniform. On the ground in Denver, a flurry of activity was underway. Tarmac side assistance for Dr. Hayes was the call that went out. The airport's entire emergency medical team was scrambling. When the plane landed, it wasn't a normal taxi. It was a hard, fast brake, pulling directly off the runway and stopping at a remote stand where an ambulance and a half-dozen paramedics were waiting. The moment the engines spooled down, the door was opened. The paramedics rushed on board. Their leader, a tall man named Mike, stopped short when he saw the woman with the ambu bag. "Dr. Hayes, Wow. We were told you were on board." "She saved him," Mr. Henderson's wife sobbed from her seat. "That woman, she saved my husband." "She's Dr. Hayes, all right," Thomas, the aide, said to the paramedics. "She's the Surgeon General." The name rippled through the paramedic team. The transfer of care was a study in professional respect. "Dr. Hayes, I'm Mike. What do we have?" Amelia gave the most concise, brilliant handoff report Mike had ever heard. "Arthur Henderson, 58. Witnessed collapse approx 45 minutes ago. Went into VFib. One shock administered via onboard AED. Regained thready pulse. Been bagging him on O2 since. BP is unstable. He needs a cath lab yesterday." "Understood, doctor," Mike said. "Let's get him." In less than 60 seconds, they had Mr. Henderson on a gurney and were wheeling him toward the door. As they passed, Mr. Henderson's wife grabbed Amelia's tracksuit, her knuckles white. "Thank you," she wept. "God, thank you. What's your name? I need to—" "I'm Dr. Amelia Hayes," she said softly, "and he's not out of the woods. Go with him. They'll take good care of him." The ambulance doors slammed shut, and the sirens wailed, fading into the distance. The cabin was left in a stunned, quiet aftermath. The aisle was littered with a ripped shirt, saline bags, and plastic AED wrappers. Captain Miller emerged from the cockpit, his hat in his hand. He walked directly to Amelia. His face was granite. Dr. Hayes, he said, his voice deep and formal. On behalf of Trans-American Airlines, I want to formally apologize for the delay in your assistance. Emilia, for the first time, let her exhaustion show. She sat down in her seat. She was covered in another man's sweat. Captain, she said, her voice quiet but carrying. A delay is when my luggage is late. What happened here was a catastrophic failure of your crew. Your lead attendant, Barbara, actively, physically, and verbally prevented me from rendering aid. She did so based on... What, Captain? My tracksuit? My face? Barbara had emerged from the galley. She heard every word. That man nearly died, Emilia continued, her voice rising with a cold, controlled fury. Not from his heart attack. He nearly died from your employee's prejudice, and I want to know what you are going to do about it. Captain Miller didn't look at Barbara. He kept his eyes on Emilia. Ma'am, I assure you, this will be handled. You and the other passengers will be moved to a new aircraft to continue to San Francisco. My crew will be staying in Denver. The subtext was clear. Barbara and Chloe were grounded. Dr. Hayes, Barbara stammered, stepping forward. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I was just following protocol. Emilia Hayes stood up. She was shorter than Barbara, but at that moment, she seemed to tower over her. Protocol, she said, her voice now dangerously soft. Is it your protocol to deny aid? Is it your protocol to assume a black woman in first class is trouble? Is it your protocol to serve an intoxicated passenger until he's a liability? Your protocol, Barbara, is a lawsuit waiting to happen. You are a danger to every person who steps on this plane. You didn't not know who I was. You didn't care who I was. You just cared that I wasn't who you expected. Emilia picked up her leather satchel. She looked at Barbara's trembling, ruined face. You're not sorry you did it, Emilia said. You're just sorry you got caught. She turned and walked off the plane, leaving Barbara Jennings alone in the aisle, surrounded by the wreckage of her 25-year career. The fallout was immediate, and it was brutal. Before Dr. Emilia Hayes had even boarded the new plane, Thomas, the political aide, was on his phone. His tweet, sent from the tarmac in Denver, was a nuclear bomb. Incredible. On our Trans-American Flight 112, man has heart attack. Black woman says, I'm a doctor, and crew refuses to let her help, tries to stop her. Turns out, she's the goddamn Surgeon General. She saved his life anyway. Crew grounded. Unbelievable. Mouse flying while black. Trans-American. He tagged 2 major news outlets. By the time Emilia landed in San Francisco, the story was the #1 trending topic in the world. Trans-American Airlines' PR department didn't just have a crisis. They had a 5-alarm corporate meltdown. Their stock, which was already fragile, took an immediate nosedive in after-hours trading. The airline's CEO, David Thompson, was a man who understood optics. He was apoplectic. He didn't call his PR team. He didn't call his lawyers. He called the captain of the flight. What happened? Thompson's voice was a low growl. Captain Miller, a man of uncompromising integrity, told him. He told him about Barbara's trouble comment in the galley, which Chloe, now fully cooperating, had tearfully recounted. He told him about Barbara physically blocking Dr. Hayes. He told him about her serving the drunk, Mr. Peterson. He told him every last damning detail. I see, Thompson said. He hung up. His next call was to Barbara Jennings, who was sitting in a sterile crew hotel room in Denver, under administrative leave. Miss Jennings, this is David Thompson. Barbara's heart stopped. Mr. Thompson, sir. Do not sir me. As of 3:45 p.m. Mountain Time, You are terminated from Trans-American Airlines. Your 25 years of service, your pension, your flight benefits are all forfeited, pending the outcome of the multiple lawsuits we are about to face. You are blacklisted from this airline and every partner we have. Do you understand me? But my union, she stammered. Your union has already been sent the in-flight black box audio from the cabin. They've been sent 3 separate passenger-filed videos of the event. They've been sent Captain Miller's report. Your union, Thompson said, his voice dripping with ice, told me to do what you have to do. You're a toxic asset, Ms. Jennings. Goodbye. He hung up. Barbara stared at the dead phone. Fired. Blacklisted. Pension gone. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. She had followed protocol, her protocol, the protocol of her own biases. Meanwhile, Chloe was also in a hotel room. Her phone rang. It was David Thompson. Ms. Davis, he said, his voice much softer. You have a choice to make. You can be terminated for failure to act, or you can be the star witness in our new company-wide de-escalation and bias training program. You will be on probation for 6 months. You will travel the country with our new training team, and you will tell your story. You will tell every new hire what you saw, what you didn't do, and what you learned. What's it going to be? Chloe, weeping, took the deal. It was a lifeline. Amelia, for her part, was trying to ignore the storm. She was whisked from the airport in SFO to her hotel. Her phone was a constant buzz of texts from senators, news anchors, and her own staff. Her keynote speech was the next morning. It had been about policy, about budgets and rural health care. She deleted the entire thing. She sat at her hotel desk at 2 a.m. and started from scratch. The airline's CEO, David Thompson, managed to get her personal cell number. He called. "Dr. Hayes," he said, his voice saturated with a performance of humility. "I am devastated. I am appalled. I am so deeply sorry." "Are you Mr. Thompson?" Amelia's voice was tired. Yes." "The employee responsible, Barbara Jennings, has been terminated. We are launching a full-scale, top-to-bottom review of our training. I've already engaged the top bias consultant in the country. I'd like to make a donation, a significant one. To your foundation. The Public Health Fund. Say, $5 million. There was a long pause. "Mr. Thompson," Amelia said, "I appreciate the gesture, but this isn't a problem you can solve with a check. You don't have a Barbara problem. You have a culture problem. You can't fire a culture." What can I do?" he pleaded. "You can listen," Amelia said. "For a start." She hung up. She had a speech to write. The next morning, the auditorium was packed. What was supposed to be a standard policy conference keynote had become the hottest ticket in the country. News vans lined the street. The C-SPAN cameras were front and center. Amelia Hayes walked onto the stage. She was not in her uniform. She was not in a power suit. She was in a simple, elegant, dark blue dress. She looked poised, powerful, and very, very tired. "Good morning," she began. "My speech today was supposed to be about the logistics of rural vaccine distribution, but something happened on the way here." A nervous laugh rippled through the crowd. "Yesterday," she continued, "I was a passenger on a flight, and a man's heart stopped, and I was reminded, in the most visceral way possible, that the most dangerous, pre-existing condition in America is not heart disease. It's not diabetes. It is prejudice," she went on. She told the story. She didn't name names. She didn't have to. "There was a person on that plane," she said, "who had a uniform, who had a title, who had authority. And in her moment of crisis, she did not see a patient in need. She saw a type. She saw a problem. She saw a black woman in a tracksuit, and her brain shut down. Her protocol was a shield for her prejudice. And in the 10, 20, 30 seconds she spent arguing with me, a man's life was on the line. The room was utterly silent. "We talk about public health," she said, her voice ringing with passion. "But what is the health of the public if the public is taught to see some of us as less than, less human, less believable, less real?" The bias that my team and I fight in hospitals is the same bias that a pilot fights in the cockpit, a teacher fights in the classroom, and yes, a flight attendant fights in the cabin. It is a pathogen. It infects all of us, and it is killing us. The speech was a sensation. It was replayed on every network. It was called the tracksuit speech. It reset the national conversation. Mr. Henderson, the man she saved, made a full recovery. The surgeons at Denver Health called him a miracle. They said the immediate, high-quality CPR and the single shock at 30,000 feet were the only reasons he survived. He was, as it turned out, a Silicon Valley tech billionaire. And he was grateful. He and his wife met with Amelia a week later. He tried to write her a check. A thank you check, he'd called it. Amelia, just as she had with the airline CEO, refused. "I'm a doctor, Mr. Henderson. I did my job, and I'm a public servant. I can't accept that." "Then what?" he asked. "How can I—" "You want to thank me," Amelia said, a steely look in her eye. "Don't thank me. Fix the problem. You're a man who builds things. Build something that helps." Mr. Henderson, a man of action, understood. He didn't just donate $5 million to the Public Health Fund. He established a new $100 million endowment in partnership with Trans-American Airlines, who were desperate for good PR, and Amelia's office. It was called the Hayes Initiative for Equitable Care. Its mission was simple: to fund research and implement training to combat medical and systemic bias across all industries. Their first project, a joint program with the FAA to completely rewrite crew emergency training, with a new module on authority and bias, designed by Dr. Hayes herself. Amelia's revenge was not personal, it was systemic. For Barbara Jennings, the fall was hard, and it was fast. She was not just fired, she was vaporized. The blacklisting was real. No major airline would touch her. No regional carrier would even grant her an interview. Her 25 years of experience were now her 25 years of liability. She and her husband, Richard, a mid-level manager at a paper company, were forced to sell their comfortable suburban home. The loss of her pension, combined with the moral turpitude clause in her 401k, wiped out their retirement. They moved into a small, cramped apartment in a rundown complex. Barbara, once a proud queen of the sky, was now 58 years old and applying for jobs at fast food restaurants. She got one, finally, as a cashier at a Home Depot. She, who had once sneered at passengers, was now forced to smile and ask, "Will that be cash or credit?" For $15 an hour. The humiliation was a fire she swallowed every day. She blamed Amelia Hayes. She blamed Chloe. She blamed woke culture and cancel culture. In her mind, she was the victim. She was the one who had been wronged. This internal, bitter monologue was her only companion, as Richard had grown distant, his respect for her long since evaporated. 1 year and 2 months after the flight, the hard karma arrived. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic event. It was a slow-motion disaster. Richard had a persistent cough. He was tired all the time. They had, of course, lost their excellent airline health insurance. They were now on a high-deductible marketplace plan that barely covered anything. "It's just a cold, Richard," Barbara would snap. We can't afford a doctor's visit for a sniffle." But one Tuesday, Richard collapsed in the apartment's tiny kitchen. The cough had become a bloody, wheezing rattle. Barbara, panicked, called 911. They were rushed to the county hospital, Metropolitan General. It was not a private, gleaming center of medicine. It was a public hospital, overcrowded, underfunded, and chaotic. They sat in the emergency room for 6 hours. Barbara, used to demanding immediate service, was just another number, another terrified, anonymous face in a sea of sickness and despair. She tried to complain to the triage nurse. "My husband he's very sick," she insisted. The nurse, a man with the most tired eyes Barbara had ever seen, didn't even look up from his screen. "So is everyone else, ma'am. Please have a seat. We'll get to you." Barbara sat, fuming, helpless. This was the world she now lived in, the world without privilege. Finally, they were called back, put in a curtained-off bay. A young resident came in, listened to Richard's lungs, and ordered a chest X-ray. An hour later, an older doctor, the attending physician, came back. Her face was grave. "Mrs. Jennings, I'm Dr. Alistair. Your husband, his X-ray is not good. We're seeing a large mass in his left lung. We need to admit him, immediately." Barbara's world tilted. "Mass? Like cancer?" "That's what we need to find out," Dr. Alistair said. Richard was admitted. For 3 days he was poked, prodded, and scanned. Barbara sat by his bed, watching her husband shrink, her savings account, which she checked on her phone, doing the same. The diagnosis was brutal. Stage 3 small-cell lung cancer. Aggressive. "There's a chance," Dr. Alistair told them, her voice kind but firm. "It responds well to aggressive chemo, and our oncology department here is one of the best. But it's a very, very hard road." We'll do it," Barbara stammered, the reality of her financial ruin crashing into the reality of her husband's mortality. "We have to." "Good," Dr. Alistair said. "Now, there is a new program at this hospital. A patient advocacy initiative. Given the complexity of your husband's case, you qualify. They help navigate the insurance, the scheduling, everything. It's a godsend, frankly." "Yes, please, anything," Barbara said. "Great. The head of the program is doing her rounds this morning. She'll be in to speak with you. She's amazing. She's the one who got this whole program funded." Dr. Alistair left. 10 minutes later, there was a polite knock on the doorframe. "Mrs. Jennings? Mr. Jennings?" a voice said. Barbara looked up. Standing in the doorway, holding a tablet and wearing a crisp white lab coat over a simple, elegant blouse, was Dr. Amelia Hayes. Barbara Jennings stopped breathing. It wasn't her. It couldn't be. It was a nightmare. It was a cruel, twisted joke. But it was her. Dr. Hayes looked older, perhaps, a little more lined around the eyes, but she had the same unmistakable aura of calm, absolute authority. Amelia, however, gave no sign of recognition. Why would she? Barbara was just another face in a long line of tragedies, a pale, terrified woman in a hospital room, crumpled in a plastic chair, her hair unkempt, beady, her eyes red-rimmed. She was no longer the uniformed tyrant of Flight 112. She was just a civilian, a nobody. "Mrs. Jennings," Amelia said again, stepping into the room. Her smile was professional, warm, but not familiar. "I'm Dr. Hayes. I'm with the Patient Advocacy Office. I'm here to help you and your husband navigate the next few steps." Barbara opened her mouth, but only a small, choked sound came out. I. Amelia's brow furrowed in concern, mistaking Barbara's shock for simple grief. "It's a lot, I know. Dr. Alistair has briefed me. Your husband has a tough fight ahead, but he's in the right place. Our oncology team is fantastic." She turned to Richard, who was awake but frail. "Mr. Jennings, my job is to make the non-medical part of this easier. We're going to look at your insurance, we're going to get you a schedule for treatment, and we're going to make sure you have access to everything you need, from transportation to nutritional support." Richard nodded weakly. "Thank you, Doctor." "It's you," Barbara finally whispered, the word sharp as a shard of glass. Amelia turned back to her. "I'm sorry?" "It's you," Barbara repeated, louder. Amelia looked at her, really looked at her. She searched the woman's face. The features were vaguely familiar. A flight, a conference. She met thousands of people. "I'm afraid you have me at a disadvantage," Amelia said, still polite. "Trans-American," Barbara breathed, her hands shaking. "Flight 112 to San Francisco." A flicker, a microsecond of recognition passed over Amelia's face. Not of Barbara, but of the event. She had, for a split second, a memory of the smell of stale cabin air and her own voice, shouting, and then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by professional calm. If she recognized Barbara, she gave no sign. "I'm here," Amelia said, "to discuss your husband's care." You, don't you know who I am?" Barbara was standing now, her voice hysterical. "I'm Barbara Jennings. I was the flight attendant. You ruined me." Richard from the bed said, "Barbara, stop it. For God's sake, sit down." Amelia held up a hand. Her face was now unreadable. She just watched Barbara. She didn't defend herself. She didn't attack. She just waited. "You got me fired." Barbara was sobbing now, the year of rage and humiliation pouring out. "My pension, my home, everything. You took everything from me. And now you're here? Here? Are you here to laugh? To gloat?" The accusation hung in the sterile air. Amelia Hayes put her tablet on the side table. She folded her hands. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was quiet, devoid of all judgment. "Mrs. Jennings," she said, "I didn't get you fired. Your actions did. I never filed a report. I never spoke to your CEO about you. I spoke about a system which you, unfortunately, embodied that day." She took a step closer. "You didn't lose your pension. You traded it. You traded it for a moment of perceived power. You traded it for the right to believe that the world as you saw it was the only way it could be." I... Barbara had no words. "You ask if I'm here to gloat," Amelia continued, her voice still impossibly calm. "I am here because this hospital, this underserved community, is where the real work is. The Hayes Initiative, the one Mr. Henderson funded after I saved his life, pays for this program. It pays for the patient advocate. It pays for the insurance navigator. And in cases like yours, it pays for the co-pays you can't afford." Barbara's legs gave out. She sat, hard, back in the chair. "This program," Amelia said, "is the only reason your high-deductible insurance will cover your husband's experimental chemotherapy. This program, which exists only because of the incident you caused, is now the only thing standing between your husband and bankruptcy, or worse." The hard karma was not fire and brimstone. It wasn't Amelia pointing a finger and demanding vengeance. The karma was grace. It was the crushing, suffocating, absolute grace of being saved by the very person you tried to destroy. It was the humiliation of knowing that your family's survival was now entirely dependent on the compassion and excellence of the woman you saw as less than. Barbara Jennings looked at the floor, defeated. Amelia picked up her tablet. She went back to being the professional. "So, Mrs. Jennings," she said, her tone back to business. "Let's talk about your husband's treatment schedule. I have his first oncology appointment for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Let's make sure you have a way to get here." Barbara could only nod, mute, as Dr. Hayes, the Surgeon General, the passenger, the doctor, the woman she had dismissed, began to save her life. The final crushing blow for Barbara wasn't losing her job. It was sitting in that hospital, desperate, and receiving quiet, professional help from the very woman she had tried to humiliate. Dr. Amelia Hayes's ultimate revenge wasn't revenge at all. It was just her continued, unshakable excellence. She proved that true authority doesn't come from a uniform, a title, or a snap judgment. It comes from integrity, skill, and a compassion that you show even to those who don't deserve it. What do you think is the most powerful form of karma? Is it a loud, crashing punishment, or is it the quiet, inescapable grace of the person you wronged? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. This story shows how prejudice in any job, whether you're a flight attendant or a CEO, can have life or death consequences, and it shows how one person's refusal to be diminished can change the world. If you were moved by Amelia's story and the hard lesson Barbara learned, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life drama stories that will make you think. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss an update.